Okie dokie. This is probably, you probably are going, thank goodness, the last installment of the my try series of the transmitter, crystal radio, and amplifier. What I have here, I have the crystal radio going. I have the transmitter in the other room, and I'm playing Dark Fantasies off of my Kindle iPad or pad. It's not an iPad; it's a Kindle. And right now, I actually, when I first set the crystal up, I set it up real basic, and it picked it up. I didn't even have to hardly mess around with it. But there was some buzzing and then I had to play with it a bit. But it's coming in pretty good now. I think you can hear it pretty good. Let me. Now, right now, I'm playing it. I'm playing it through my little LM386 amplifier that I built. I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. And also, I'm gonna show you the. I'm going to show you the block and the schematic on Eagle. So maybe if you want to try what I did, you can. I've also got, this is the 741, the LM741, and I'm going to explain why the op amp's on the back and everything else is on the front. But yet, in this one, everything's normal. Like I said, I'll explain that when we go to the computer, and that way I can show you what I kind of came up with. But I have to admit, it's coming through kind of good. So, like I said, I've got it set up here. I played around because playing with the crystal is fun. And down the road, I'm going to build a nice crystal set where I can switch different coils and do all kinds of stuff. These are like my prototypes for when I'm experimenting, which like right now. So let me see if I can get the 741 hooked up, and if I'll still keep the signal strong. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I'm running this 386. I'm running it at a 4.5, and you can see it's about 210 milliamps running with it, and it's it's an amplifier, so it's going to run it's going to run some, but it's that's, you're talking 3 AA batteries if you want. I have it hooked up right now because it's easier for the power system. Okay. Okay, first let me explain. This is the board for the 741, the LM741. And if you notice on the board, I have most of the components on the one side. It'd be the blank side. And there's a reason for this. If you look in the bottom, that's where the IC chip is, the 741 chip. And what happened was, I was thinking you have to mirror this. You have to reverse the image when you put it on the board. And that would be true if this was a double-sided board. But when you use a single-sided board, you don't want to do that. You want to leave it just normal, so when you paste it on the back, it will already be reversed, but then it'll be straight for the front. I know that sounds kind of confusing, but I guess what I'm saying, if you're going to do a single side board, and play with it. But you'll find that if you don't reverse it, just print it out as it is, it should come out okay for you because you're going through the board. I hope that makes sense. Okay, now here's the bottom of the board, and you can see I've got the chip here, and it worked out okay. I had to it wasn't it wasn't the easiest thing to figure out, but this is not the way to do it. You got to play around a bit. Matter of fact, I was going to make another one. I thought, you know what, I might as well just show what can happen if you do the mirror image when you print out your board. Now I'm going to show you the actual schematic and the board from Eagle here. First we'll look at the 741. Alright, now here's the schematic in Eagle for the 741, and if you notice, I've got the split rail over to the left to where we're putting in 9 volts, but we've got it divided at 4.5, so that lets us run the chip at 9 volts, but it gives us that virtual ground at 4.5. And I've got another video that I explain that more, and other people do it even better than me. But this is a schematic, and remember, if you want to play around with schematics and boards, that the Eagle program is free, and even if you're not going to print stuff out and that, I mean, just being able to lay them out like this, it's a really good program, in that you can't beat the price. Okay, now here's the 741 board that I laid out in Eagle, and I'm not an engineer, and I haven't studied this stuff a lot, so and this is for a single-sided board, and like I said, when I did mine, I reversed it. What you want to do is you would want to leave it just as is, and put it on your copper side, and then when you're putting your components in through the other side, it lines up okay. But this is the board, and it worked okay. Okay, now this is the LM386 board that I was using in the video here, and now because I had several 386s, I didn't use a socket, I soldered it directly to the board. But if you notice, this is the way it's supposed to be. All the components are on top. They go through the board to the traces at the bottom. And now here, this is a picture of the LM386 board underneath with the traces. And like I said, when I printed this out, and by the way, I did get a laser printer because it's a cheap one, and it was actually it had been the same if I would have went and bought ink for the other one. So I thought, you know what, I might as well just get it. It's black and white. Most of my stuff I do is in black and white. So anyway, this is the back of the board, and it came out okay. Right now, once again, this is the schematic that I drew out in Eagle, and pretty basic, simple. Now on the board that I just showed you, I did not put the capacitor in that goes from pin 1 to pin 8 that gives you the 200 gain. I left that open for now, and if you noticed, just without it, it was it was amplifying pretty good. It sounded pretty good what was coming out of the speaker. So this is the schematic in Eagle. Now let me grab the board. And here we have the 386 board in Eagle. And pretty basic, pretty simple. And you know, this little program, it takes a little bit to get used to, but once you start messing with it, it's really pretty easy, and it can be a lot of fun. And you can draw up anything you want and lay out all sorts of stuff. And like I said before, you know, you can't beat the price. That's for sure. Now, one thing I did want to add is I didn't show using the 741 as an amp. You can use it as a preamp. And for some things, like if you want to amplify like a small radio or something, it will actually push speakers. But for it to grab that real small signal that's coming through the crystal radio and then trying to jam it into that speaker, it didn't work. So if you have a 741, you might want to use it as a preamp and run it into the 386 here. That'd be a better deal for you, I would say. Okay, everybody, this kind of wraps up the crystal radio with the transmitter and the radio and the amplifier. And I've had a whole lot of fun doing it. And I hope that some of you will consider maybe building, you know, a transmitter, a crystal, amp, or put them all together like we did here. You know, it's just a lot of fun, and that's what this hobby's all about. You know, it should be. You know, shouldn't be making you go, I'm crazy now. You know, you don't want to do that stuff. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I'm not really sure what we're going to do next, but it's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. Okay, everybody, you have a great day, and I'll be seeing you real soon. Take care now. Goodbye.